Sask Ag Today, live from Agribition. Here's your hosts, Doug Faulkner and Ryan Young.
Good afternoon and welcome to Sask Ag Today. Doug Faulkner along with Ryan Young here at Canadian Western Agribition in Regina. Another busy day here, day 3 of the event. And Ryan, you had a chance to speak with some young ladies, and we'll hear about that coming up on the program.
Well, I should be careful with my words here, just in case if my wife is listening. But yes, I did speak with 3 young ladies, to be exact, this year's contestants of Miss Rodeo Agribition. They had the opportunity to be available for interviews this morning. They talked a little bit about their experience so far with the competition, with the crowning of the new Miss Rodeo Agribition later on tonight. And I also spoke with the inaugural winner, Ari Dick, just about how she's been able to mentor these contestants. So we'll hear more of that later on in the program, Doug.
Also, Christy Clark, the former Premier of British Columbia, was here at Agribition in Regina yesterday. Kevin Hirsch of SaskAgToday.com got to talk with her about what she thinks of all the news regarding the possible tariff from the United States. And, of course, trade issues with China was also a big issue for Federal Agriculture Minister Lawrence MacAulay, and that's something you got to sit in on as well, Ryan.
That's right, and he also talked about what you mentioned just a few moments ago about the potential tariffs coming from the United States. He was asked about that as well. So there's lots going on the trade front for Lawrence MacAulay, our federal ag minister, and we'll hear about how he's going to approach those as well.
So all of those stories and much more coming up on today's edition of Sask Ag Today. Please stay tuned. We'll be back right after these messages.
Precision Weather is brought to you.
Sask Ag Today, live from Agribition. Here's your host, Ryan Young.
An early preview of winter and temperatures expected to remain below normal not only through the balance of the week, but right through the weekend. The skies will be brightening up, particularly as we look forward to Friday. Right now, only minor weather makers expected to be slipping across the region during the course of the weekend. Our forecast details still a risk of flurries this afternoon And we'll see a 30 to 50% chance of seeing some flakes in the air. Temperatures remain cold, nudging up to near minus 11. Winds will kick into the west-northwest and slowly increase this afternoon. There will be a fair amount of cloudiness tonight. It's cold at minus 22. West and northwest winds at 10 to 20. Partly sunny skies tomorrow, minus 19. West and northwest winds at 10 to 20. A few clouds, cold, minus 27 tomorrow night. Sunny, bright, but cold, minus 21 on Friday. It'll remain cold with well below normal temperatures through the weekend. I'm meteorologist Russ Marley.
Thank you very much, Russ. Just in case if you didn't hear that, the summary of it was pretty much there's a chance of snow. It's going to be cold with a little bit of a wind. Here in Regina, the sun rose at 8:33 this morning, and the sun will set at around 5 o'clock tonight once again. Looking at Regina right now, a little bit of light snow coming down. Northwest wind at 26 kilometers an hour. The humidity is at 86%. The temperature is at minus 13 degrees or 9 degrees Fahrenheit. And the barometric pressure is at 102.5 and rising. Over in Moose Jaw, meanwhile, light snow and drifting snow as well. West-northwest wind at 30 to 41 kilometers an hour. And the temperature at around minus 12 degrees. And taking a look at some of the communities around the 620 CKRM listening area. Assiniboia is at minus 15, Broadview and Moosomin minus 13 degrees, Estevan at minus 10. Meanwhile, in Saskatoon, it's minus 14, Swift Current minus 13 degrees, Weyburn minus 11, Yorkton and Melville at minus 14 degrees. And finally, for the provincial warm spot in the province, it belongs to Maple Creek and East End at minus 10, and the cold spot in Scott at minus 18 degrees. Doug?
Taking a look at the GX94 temperatures in the Paw, it's minus 12 degrees. Swan River minus 13, Dauphin minus 10, Brandon, Show Lake Russell minus 12, Roblin minus 14. Regina minus 12, Saskatoon Hudson Bay minus 14, Broadview Moosomin Indian Head minus 13, Wynyard Wadena Kelvington minus 15. The Yorkton-Melville region has some light snow, a south-southwest wind at 5 kilometers per hour. 91% is the relative humidity. The temperature is minus 14 degrees. With the wind chill, it feels more like minus 17 degrees. And that's a look at your agriculture weather. Please stay tuned. Sask Ag Today will return right after these messages.
Sask Ag.
Sask Ag Today, live from Agribition.
And welcome back to Sask Ag Today. It is day 3 of Canadian Western Agribition. We are here at Real District, specifically at the Affinity Plex. If you want to stop by and say hello, you're more than welcome to. A new Miss Rodeo Agribition will be crowned tonight. Competing this year are Abby Hardy, Dalen Oliver, and Shayla Preston. So far, the contestants participated in horse riding and tested their knowledge in agribition. They're also doing public speaking as well later on today. I spoke to all 3 earlier this morning about how their experience has been so far. First up is Abby Hardy talking about the horsemanship and exam.
It's been wonderful. I actually can't believe how much I've changed as a person, and I just got here on Monday. But the experience is amazing, and I can't wait for the rest of it here.
So yesterday, what did you do? There was the horse riding thing and then
Yes.
the exam. Just talk a little bit.
Yeah, yesterday was our horsemanship at 8 in the morning. It was wonderful to get on another horse. I normally just ride my horses at home, so it was really cool to ride someone else's horse and use some of my skills that I know. And then we had our written exam in the afternoon, and that was just really nice to test some knowledge of rodeo and agribition and some horse science.
And how was it riding someone else's horse? Is that a bit awkward at first? Or?
It just takes a little bit of time to get used to it, but I think that's a really important part of the Miss Rodeo Agribition competition, as you are going to be thrown on multiple different horses throughout your year of reign.
All right, and a little bit about the exam. What was that process like?
It was actually really good. You have to study a little bit for that, but yeah, no, it was really nice to be able to just kind of even learn different things that I wouldn't probably necessarily know about. So that was really nice.
Next up is Shayla Preston.
So my experience has been really good. I've made lifelong friends. I've gained more confidence about just doing interviews and getting in front of people and doing public speaking. I've also gained more confidence in my horsemanship skills. Just being able to hop on and ride different horses that I'm unfamiliar with, it really attests to the skills I've developed over the many years of riding.
For the horse riding that you mentioned, was that difficult at all yesterday doing that, or was it easy?
I thought it was easy. I had a really good horse that was lent out to me yesterday. I think it was a really good partnership. It just worked out really well. It clicked pretty good. And then I think he gave me a really nice pattern. Not sure what the judges thought, but I really appreciated the patterns that horse made for me. So.
And the exam that you had to take part in, what was that like?
I've voted in a lot of exams through nursing, so I don't get too nervous for them, but I do finish exams very fast. So when I still see people writing, I'm like, oh, did I finish too early or miss something? But I've looked over the exam about 3 times yesterday, and I was like, okay, I have everything wrote. I'm like, there's nothing else to add, so just went and, I don't know, it's in the past now. We've just been moving on with everything and not getting too hung up on what I did.
And here is finally Dalen Oliver.
Oh, it's been very exciting and almost overwhelming. The amount of people that walk through Agribition, it's just been insane. It's so good to see everybody coming to support Agribition and being a part of it.
And just talking a little bit about the competitions that you've participated in so far. One was the horsemanship or horse riding skill competition, I guess we'll call it. What was that like for you?
Well, I quite enjoyed it. We got to ride horses that we didn't know, and I got a very energetic gelding, and he was very fun to ride, and I got to go out there and just have fun, really, because he wasn't mine, and I got to just showcase how I could ride.
The second thing that you had to do was an exam related to agribition and I guess cattle in general. How did that go for you? How do you feel about it?
Well, I think it went good. There was some Regina facts, and being from Regina, I thought I would know more, but I love getting surprises, so that was good. And then this rodeo information, roping and rules, and I knew that, so that was really good. And then all this history, so I think it went well.
The inaugural winner of Miss Rodeo Agribition was Ari Dick, who was mentoring the trio.
I have mainly been a mentor for the 3 lovely contestants this year. I've been there if they've had any questions. I've also been making sure that they get to their events on time and everything like that, which is a good role for me to be in, because I will be taking over and sitting on my Queen Committee as well when I fully pass on my crown on December 1st, which is this coming Sunday, when the new girl will fully take over. And I will be kind of in that more role of helping them organize events, helping them travel to events, telling them what they should pack and the things that they should have just in case something goes wrong. So it's been really good for me to kind of switch that part of my brain over a little bit and help these girls. I've really enjoyed being a mentor this year to a lot of young girls who have been interested about entering the trades just as I have. And it's been a really great experience to be a mentor for people.
The crowning of Miss Rodeo Agribition will take place during the intermission of the Maple Leaf Finals Rodeo tonight. Stay tuned, we got more on the program here. We'll be back right after these messages. Now.
Sask Ag Today, live from Agribition.
The Bank of Canada said on Tuesday that if U.S. President-elect Donald Trump follows through on his threat of tariffs on Canada, it would have an impact on both economies, and the central bank would incorporate those into its economic forecasts. Trump announced on Monday that he would impose a unilateral 25% tariff on all goods from Canada and Mexico from January 20th. If Trump carries out his threat, economists say it could fuel inflation, suppress growth, and distort the trajectory of interest rates in Canada. Deputy Governor Rhys Mendez says what happens in the U.S. has a big impact on us, and something like this would clearly have an impact on both economies. Mendez, who was in Prince Edward Island to talk about the Bank of Canada's inflation target and its impact on monetary policy, was responding to a question about the impact of Trump's proposed tariff. Canadian National Railway has been dealing with labor disputes over the past year, and another one seems to be impending. Monday, CN clerks and mechanics approved a strike mandate. According to their union, Unifor, the two groups voted 97 and 96% in favor of job action, respectively. They're calling for improved compensation, job security, and working conditions. This would affect around 2,500 workers. At Canadian Western Agribition's Grain Expo, Sandra Ellis, CN's vice president for bulk, spoke briefly about the vote for job action, saying CN is actively in negotiations. Despite the overwhelming majority of workers voting in favor of job action, Ellis says she's optimistic that they can come to an agreement. This follows CN's challenging contract talks and the labor stoppage with railroad workers earlier this year. Canola oilseed prices in Australia and Europe have risen by about 20% since the start of March due to tight supply and a rally in vegetable oil markets, with further gains expected as buyers remain reluctant to switch to cheaper soybeans. Prices have this month hit two-year highs of nearly $819 Canadian a metric ton in Australia and a 21-month high of almost $811 Canadian a ton in Europe, with multi-month peaks also in China and Canada. Supply is limited with smaller harvests in most major producers. The European Union and China, the biggest buyers, have stepped up imports, with shipments to China reaching record levels as it stocks up ahead of possible tariffs on canola from Canada, its main supplier. Rapid gains in vegetable oil markets also provided support, with Malaysian palm oil futures reaching a more than two-year high this month before prices dipped. Exporters have shipped soybeans from the busiest U.S. grains port at the fastest rate in nearly 4 years after rain raised water levels in the Mississippi River. Some 60% of U.S. soy exports depart from Gulf Coast terminals that draw supplies from barges traveling south on the Mississippi, the country's most important grain waterway. Heavy rainfall across the central United States brought relief to Gulf Coast grain shippers after the Mississippi fell to near historic lows during peak export season for a third straight year. Deeper waters are allowing crop handlers to supply exporters with more grain per barge and to lash more barges together into tows for shipment down the river to the Gulf. The pickup in barge movement came just as grain merchants are scrambling to move the second largest U.S. soy crop ever. And while the incoming Trump administration will look to scale back U.S. commitment to global climate initiatives, current Agriculture Secretary Tom Vilsack says that would risk putting U.S. farmers at a global disadvantage when American farmers should be championing their climate-smart efforts. Vilsack returned late last week from the United Nations Conference of the Parties, that's COP29, in Baku, Azerbaijan. COP29 was marked by disputes over how much wealthy countries will pledge to help developing countries, as well as what role the U.S. will play in talks over the next 4 years. Vilsack says U.S. agriculture already has put a lot of investment into reducing greenhouse gases and making ag more resilient to extreme weather. He says those efforts will continue. And that's today's Ag Review. Please stay tuned. Sask Ag Today will be back right after these messages.
This portion.
Sask Ag Today, live from Agribition. Here's your host, Ryan Young.
And welcome back to Sask Ag Today. We are here at Canadian Western Agribition. It is day 3 of the event. U.S. President-elect Donald Trump has created a great deal of concern by claiming he will invoke a 25% tariff on all imports from Mexico in Canada. However, Christy Clark, former Premier of British Columbia, believes such a massive trade tariff is unlikely. Clark, now an advisor at the firm Bennett Jones, was a featured speaker yesterday at Agribition's Grain Expo, where he spoke with Kevin Hirsch of SaskAgToday.com.
Trump is a very tough negotiator. He always walks in with a big number into the room. I think he's much more focused on Mexico, though, worrying that that China has kind of, are evading his trade aims and his tariffs by coming in through Mexico. There are certainly issues between Canada and the U.S. that we need to work on, but ultimately, we produce things that America needs. And, I think he will be very concerned, particularly when it comes to food. They don't want to cause food inflation. And if there's a huge tariff put on everything from Canada, you're going to see food prices in the United States go up within days. And I think President Trump's smart enough to know that's very bad for him.
Even things like potash and the influence or the impact on border states, there'll be a lot of reasons why this would not be a very viable policy.
Yeah, and I agree. Border states play a really important role in this as well. There are a lot of border state representatives which are critically important votes for the president in the Senate and in the House of Representatives, and they're not going to vote in favor of a huge new cost for potash and all the rest of the things that Saskatchewan and Western Canada contributes in the trade with the United States. And let's remember too, in food production, a lot of this stuff is integrated back and forth across the border. It's a little bit less integrated than the auto industry, but it's still a pretty integrated economy that we have. No one in the border states wants to tear any of that apart, and I think they're going to have a big influence in President Trump's ear.
Switching to other international issue, how do you think things will play out between Canada and India, where tensions and diplomatic ties have been cut?
I think it's going to take some time, but I think we will get there. We have a lot in common with India. We share a common language of business, rule of law. We share so much history in terms, especially in terms of the diaspora who live in Canada. I can't imagine that our relations are severed forever. I think it's just going to take some time to get through a very, very difficult period here in Canada, and I think we'll find our way out of these disagreements eventually. Not fast, because the rule of law needs to be enforced in Canada without question, but as that process finds its way to its end, I think that our diplomatic relations will improve again.
That was former BC Premier Christy Clark in conversation with Kevin Hirsch of SaskAgToday.com. We'll take another break, but Sask Ag Today will return right after these messages. I'm here.
Sask Ag Today, live from Agribition. Here's your host, Ryan Young.
Welcome back, everyone, to a special edition of Sask Ag Today, live from Canadian Western Agribition. Trade issues with China and potentially the United States face Federal Agriculture Minister Lawrence MacAulay. Speaking first about the incoming Trump administration, MacAulay views the Americans as friends and emphasized the importance of cross-border trade.
As you're fully aware, particularly in the beef industry and many other industries, we're so intertwined, it's so vitally important. Example, cattle might go by across the border 4 or 5 times in its lifetime. So these kind of things are a big issue, but we intend to deal with the Trump administration as friends and be sure that we continue the trade. Nobody wants to hurt anybody. We just want to make sure that we have prosperity continues for everybody. It's been very beneficial for the U.S. and been very beneficial for Canada.
Trump is threatening a 25% tariff on Canadian goods imported into the U.S. once he takes office in January. Another potential issue with Trump is renegotiation of the Canada-U.S.-Mexico trade agreement, with Canada's supply-managed industries like dairy being in the crosshairs. MacAulay says you deal with the issues when it comes along.
Without a doubt, the new American administration knows the importance of trade, and yes, the last administration we had a pretty heavy discussion on supply management. In fact, when that discussion was on, Sonny Perdue, the Secretary for Agriculture, was on my farm in the middle of that. It cost us some, but it turned out pretty good for everybody, and that's what we want to make sure happens again.
The other front MacAulay is dealing with is China, who is in the middle of an anti-dumping investigation into Canadian canola imports. He was there last week.
Well, of course, with China, we're always concerned. They're our second largest trading partner, and there's many things that are shipped to China. And as you know, there's issues that are on the table, and we don't want to escalate anything. But the fact is, we deal with the issues as they come forward. And I've been in China a number of times. I've met many importers, and of course, again, it's important that the sectors itself indicate as clearly as they can how important the product is for them, too.
He was also asked if the Chinese gave him any update on their anti-dumping probe, and MacAulay simply said no. MacAulay, again, was here at Agribition to provide opening remarks prior to the burning of the brand on Monday morning. Then on Tuesday, gave opening remarks at the Indigenous Agriculture Summit and at the Grain Expo, and participated in a roundtable meeting with Canadian cattle groups. You're listening to Sask Ag Today on 620 CKRM and GX 94. We'll be back right after these messages. The live
Sask Ag Today, live from Agribition.
And welcome back to the program. It is time now to have a look at the latest livestock quotes as well as the latest livestock prices.
This is the market report for the Weyburn Livestock Exchange for the week in November 26th. Our last regular sale was on November 20th. D1 and D2 cows sold from $1.65 to $1.82. D3 cows sold from $1.40 to $1.60. Counter cows sold from 75 cents to $1.25. And good butcher bulls sold from $2.10 to $2.23. We had a pre-sorted calf sale here on Monday. The market seems to get stronger every week. 300 to 400 pound steers averaged $5.53 and sold at the $6. 400 to 450 pound steers averaged $5.47 and sold at the $5.89. 450 to 500 pound steers averaged $5.16 and sold at the $5.89. 500 to 550 pound steers averaged $4.92 and sold at the $5.28. 550 to 600 pound steers averaged $4.67 and sold at the $4.95. 600 to 650 pound steers averaged $4.41 and sold at the $4.79. 650 to 700 pound steers averaged $4.13 and sold at the $4.46. 700 to 800 pound steers averaged $3.88 and sold at the $4.05. And 800 to 900 pound steers averaged $3.52 and sold at the $3.84. Heifers were about 60 to 80 cents back from the steers. Some of the highlights from the sale were a group of 370-pound British steers at $6 a pound, a group of 430-pound black steers at $5.84 a pound, a load of 500-pound black steers at $5.28 a pound, a group of 550-pound tan steers at $4.95 a pound, a group of 600-pound tan steers at $4.66 a pound, a group of 650-pound tan steers at $4.35 a pound, a load of 700-pound black steers at $4.05 a pound, and a load of 780-pound Angus steers at $3.79 a pound. This has been Stephanie Daig reporting from the Weyburn Livestock Exchange, the market that gets cattle and the prices too.
And the latest pork prices from the Brandon and Moose Jaw plants, they're at $213.58 per CKG.
U.S. live cattle futures for December are trading at 188.02 this hour. That's up 112. February live cattle trading at 188.70, up 1 full cent. January feeder cattle trading at 258.90. That's up 80. March feeder cattle trading at 257.25, up 77. December lean hogs trading at 82.67, down 42. February lean hogs trading at 88.02, down 25. And that's the livestock market conditions. Please stay tuned. Sask Ag Today will be back right after these messages.
Today, live from Agribition, here's your host, Ryan Young.
And welcome back to Sask Ag Today, live from Canadian Western Agribition in Real District in Regina. Grain prices at Viterra, they were mostly up in early trading today. Canola down, though, $11.80 to $5.20.52. Feed wheat is up $10 to $203.15, and one red spring wheat is up 61 cents to $270.72, and the rest remain unchanged. Durum $317.70, feed barley $226.57, chickpeas $837.75, flax $605.85, lentils $747.50, oats at $224, and yellow peas at $387.58. Doug?
As for the ICE futures canola contract, January canola trading at $566.10 this hour. That's down $14.20. March canola trading at $580.50, down $13.70. December Minneapolis wheat trading at $5.64 per bushel, down 13.5 cents. December Kansas City wheat trading at $5.29 per bushel, down 21.5 cents. December Chicago wheat trading at $5.35 per bushel, down 4.5 cents. December corn trading at $4.18 per bushel, down 2 cents. January soybeans trading at $9.90 per bushel, that's up 6.5 cents. December oats trading at $3.36 per bushel, down 11.75 cents. And that's the commodities update. Please stay tuned. Sask Ag Today will return right after this.
This segment.
Sask Ag Today, live from Agribition. Here's your host, Ryan Young.
And welcome back to Sask Ag Today. We are here at Canadian Western Agribition here in Regina. It's day number 3. We're kind of at that halfway point of the event. And just in case if you were just tuning in, see what was going on, we talked to 3 contestants of this year's Miss Rodeo Agribition. The winner will be crowned tonight during the Maple Leaf Finals Rodeo. We also had a chance to listen to former BC Premier Christy Clark. She gave her thoughts on the incoming Trump administration and the proposed tariffs that Trump will impose on Canada as well. And we also heard from Federal Ag Minister Lawrence MacAulay on that same issue, as well as what's going on with China as well. Doug, what are your thoughts on day 3 and some of the things that we talked about?
Very interesting day. A lot going on. Obviously, the tariff issue is a big issue, especially here among cattle producers. They've all been talking about it, so definitely something that's been overshadowing Agribition so far.
Yeah, that's definitely been the top conversation in meetings with cattle groups and Minister McCauley as well as Provincial Ag Minister Daryl Harrison made mention to it earlier in the week. So we'll keep that at the forefront here on the program as the days go on here at Agribition. But that's going to be a wrap for today. On behalf of Doug Faulkner, I'm Ryan Young. Have a nice day. Remember, if